Sure. Keeping up some changing stuff. I didn't get to talk about it.
I did not. I brought your present.
Did he say anything? No. I'm sure it's up there now.
Hello,
Here,
Fred.
thank you.
Hi, lad. Hi, Marie. Tracy. Who else there?
Brad's
Christina,
black.
Brad's black.
Yeah.
And Mr. Waldo.
Yep.
So yeah, I was somewhat where was I to get that for you. So, I'm sorry I missed the call last night. We went through the process of me and Dawn's office.
Well, I think you guys were all.
Talk about it anyways. I just wanted, yeah. Put it out there. So what was decided, we will make, well, the executive secretary. And then, foundation,
Valerie followed up on that, so we should be good to go.
yeah, I had no problem with that.
I didn't figure you did.
Because Dawn left just a little bit before
Yeah.
5, we had to switch
Well,
my
let's
stuff
put
in
that
her
down.
office, my assistant now in my old office, cherry
Right.
the phone so we can work. more
Exactly,
access.
exactly.
Anyway,
I get
okay.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
All right, well, I'm gonna let Karen get settled and we'll get started.
I use it for the poison ivy. So are you gonna knock your, the wall down now between your office and Dawn's office, make you bigger?
No, I moved into Dawn's office last night, but I have an assistant.
Oh, I did think.
So she put in the request.
I waited until she walked out the door. Okay. But now we have an assistant, because we kind of hanging out in one of the front offices, so.
All right. I think this is probably what we're gonna get, so. We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Rotary. Good afternoon. How's everybody?
We like our little cozy spot here.
Do you like it in here?
Yeah,
Okay, so last week after the meeting, Sid pulled me back, they have their card thing going out on the front side, and they're making money on that by having more people up on the side where we were. And he said, well, we're all trying to do what we can do, and I said, I understand. So as long as we have access to the AV stuff that we need to do our presentations, we're good. So thank you for that. Thank you for being flexible. I think we can hear better.
I think it's a little more quiet, I was gonna say.
What did you say?
I think. All right, Karen, would you mind leading us in the pledge?
I do not, to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Karen. So for the invocation this morning, I found something that I thought was fitting about peace. So I'll just read that real quick. And it says, let us all live in peace. Let families live in peace. Let children live in peace. Let men and women go to work in peace. Let us travel in peace. Let nations dwell together. Help us to teach all the people of all races and faiths in all countries all over the world that peace that seems so far off is in fact within our reach. Let us all live in peace.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought that was
Yeah,
pretty
especially
fitting.
talk about all of the.
Yeah. And so I don't think we don't have any visitors today. So I did a Rotary Minute up, just a brief little thing here too. And it's, what is a Rotary Action Group? A Rotary Action Group are collections of Rotarians who come together, usually via the internet, to a common purpose, to do work and create projects in specific areas of interest, such as water and sanitation, end of child labor and human slavery, or peace. These action groups, also called RAGS, R-A-G-S, are an opportunity for Rotarians to share their passion and professional interest, and to explore opportunities for international partnership in service. So to find out more about the action groups that Rotary has that are of interest to you, you can Google them, or they have a list of them on the Rotary International site or on Rotary.org. And there's a lot of them. I mean, there's all different kinds of stuff. So there's something for every interest. Most of you know, this is beginning of February, and February starts our Peace and Conflict Prevention Resolution Month. So the upcoming meetings after today is next week on the 9th. Our own Jennifer Stanton is going to present on kidney and organ transplant. And then on the 16th, we will have Gift of Life by Steve Argus, and I never Aegis. And then the 16th, we also have our board meeting. Please join us for that. And on the 23rd, we will have a Rotary birthday party. So that's just going to be a lot of fun. General announcements. As you've heard me say, we have to save the date for the Fine Arts Festival. We do not have a final go yet, but we are in for permit. They have initially approved our plan, our safety plan. So we're not out of the woods yet, but it's looking a little bit more promising. So as soon as we know more details, I'll share more details with you, but just mark it on your calendars. So we're doing the We Love Our Troops military mailing. So I have boxes here with me today. So these are just the large flat rate boxes. I have some with me. You can get them at the United States Postal Service. You can order them online.
Somewhere I ended up, I've got a little bag that's got about twice that big.
Okay.
I think somewhere I ended up.
Okay. So what I'm asking, we've always done the military mailing every year, and this year, because of the challenges, we're doing it a little differently. And what I've decided to do is ask everybody to take a box and fill it. And it doesn't have to be full. I do have some items that I can fill in. It's going to reduce the amount of boxes that we mail, but we'll still make an impact. These people are still going overseas, doing their job, just like we all go to work every day. So let's just try to put a smile on a few faces. I also am going to have later this month, we will have the 17th of the month is Random Acts of Kindness Day, and I will have a challenge for you. What I would like to do is have everybody either on that day or during that week do some sort of random act of kindness. Do video, pictures, send me some stuff. We'll have some fun with it and do some good. I think it will be a nice time just to kind of rekindle some energy about doing good. And it can be just as simple as opening somebody's door for them, or, you know, it could be buying their coffee. It could be buying their lunch. I mean, it could be anything you want it to be. I will put out some more details on that coming up as well. So I also have an announcement from Miss Tracy.
So yesterday, the new theme for next year was announced, and I'm going to play this short little video. I took a little bit of a clip from the international conference or assembly, can't remember exactly what it's called, that was being held via virtual. And I'm going to play a little, I guess he did a poem, the president-elect, of why he picked this year's theme, and it will announce it. So give me a few moments to find that clip. Almost there.
High seas. Life, my dear change makers, is about adventure and not maintenance. Let me end with what I have penned for our theme. The biggest gift we are given is the power to touch a life, to change, to make a difference in the circle of life. If we can reach out with our hands, heart, and soul, the magic will begin to happen as the wheel begins to roll. Let's turn the wheel together so all humanity thrives. We have the power and magic serve to change lives. At this moment, I urge you, wherever you are seated, to put your hand on your heart and pledge with me. We have the power and the magic to serve, to change lives. So my dear change makers, are you ready? Are you ready for the big challenges? Are you ready to serve? Are you ready to change lives? I am. I'm sure you are too. Together, let us serve to change lives.
So I'm really excited about the theme for next year. If you guys have a moment, I did post on our Facebook website for the district a link that goes to the videos that they will be sharing over this past week. And the first one, it was really moving. He's got some good ideas about wanting us to be change makers, and he's also wanting us to join hands to empower girls this year. That's what he's really going to push. And also each one bring one. So to get our membership up to 1.3 million. So I'm looking forward to next year.
Very good. Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
A couple of other announcements before we get started with our main attraction today. You may have seen I sent out the email with Brenda's the Rocket Out. So she put that together this through Brookdale. They normally do their health and wellness fair, which they're not allowed to do this year because of COVID. So she was challenged to come up with something virtually. So she came up with this, and it will benefit our Rotary Club. So for $10, you can participate, and it will benefit us, but it also benefits the Meals on Wheels program locally. So I think was it February 26th is the date on that. So I have a sheet here. I emailed it out. Brenda's put it on Facebook, so you can join through Facebook and all that stuff now. So please spread the word on that. Share it so that we can get people involved. It will help our be able to do more good and have some more money in our coffers.
Yeah, so it's not just for us, it's for.
Correct.
everybody, right?
It's correct. It's anybody who wants to do it at all. So the public, anybody. And you don't have to have a rocking chair either. You could just go in and have some fun. Yeah, you can. All right. And last week I also announced, and it came out in my Monday motivation, is that Blaze is offering the Remy Halos at a great deal of $8.49. So if you're interested in that and protecting yourself and your family and your home, then get a hold of Blaze at Castle Air, and we will take care of that. I think Tracy, you already had one put in. Awesome. That's great. Okay, so without further ado, I will introduce our speaker for today. So past District Governor Lad Waldo. After finishing his college days in the exciting 1960s, Lad pursued a career in public accounting. The U.S. Army decided that his skills in waging war needed an upgrade, so they enrolled him in a 2-year program during the Vietnam War. Since he seemed to have all the luck of his son after completing all the infantry training anyone would ever need because the Russians invaded Czechoslovakia in August of '68, thus canceling his orders for Vietnam and sending him to Europe, where he served as the colonel's secretary and driver in Frankfurt. That had to have been interesting. This allowed him not only to be safe and complete his service, but to regain all the weight that he lost during training. They must have fed you well. His career as a CPA included over 45 years of audits, tax returns, and being a CFO and CEO of not-for-profits, including hospitals, university, and hospice, culminating in having the privilege of the selection of CFO of the Rotary International and TRF. The opportunity some 20 years ago opened his eyes to the incredible achievements of so many like-minded volunteer service leaders all over the world. After retiring to Florida in 2006, he joined the Rotary Club of Lakewood Ranch and spent 7 more years working as CFO and CEO of Easter Seals in Sarasota before retiring again in 2014. He was again privileged to be selected as the governor for District 6960 in 2016-17. His interest in peace and conflict prevention resolution is deep and personal. Rotary added this program while he was CFO, so he was involved in the initial senior leadership and board committee decisions. He has followed the results and watched the challenges and successes for some time. Please welcome past District Governor Lad Waldo.
Well, thank you very much. My history is too long. It's the problem with being as old as I am. The issue of being chief financial officer in not-for-profits is really how I chose to serve. Before I was ever involved in Rotary, I had this calling inside myself that directed me away from taking my accounting, financial, and tax skills away from the for-profit world and devoting it to the not-for-profit world. And that started with hospitals, really learning how to serve others by giving of what knowledge I had. I learned Medicare from when it first began. That's how old I am. Uh, and that was helpful to the hospital boards, which at that time were a bunch of old white men uh, who served no matter where the hospital was. It could be in the middle of the city of Detroit. It was still old white men on the board of the hospital way back in those days. The point I'm making is that all that service was without being a Rotarian. So I think you and I know that you don't have to belong to Rotary to serve, but it provides an organized way, a very seriously good way that's been in existence now for 116 years coming up here in February. The 23rd is our birthday. Um, I was never invited to Rotary, and maybe something to do with my personality, but mostly it had to do with the fact that I wasn't the owner of a business or the CEO or president. My boss, all those years, was a Rotarian, whether it was the hospital president or the time I spent in a liberal arts college. The president of the college was a Rotarian. I was in a hospice for 4 years as the chief financial officer, and the hospice president was a Rotarian. Never once did any of my bosses invite me to join Rotary. Back in the day, in the last century, Rotary was pretty well restricted to the owners of business, what they were called community leaders. Today, fortunately, Rotary is opened up to involve all of us, any and all of us who are interested in service or giving back in our communities. It's not just for the owners and bosses of business. And that's a great thing. It's an opportunity that is presented to all of us to participate in ways that maybe were not available in prior generations. So I joined Rotary after I worked there. I wasn't even a Rotarian when I got hired for the job. But my experience in not-for-profits was significant enough that they entrusted me with the financial affairs of what has become a very large international not-for-profit organization. Rotary began, as we all know, with Paul Harris choosing some of his fellow business associates in Chicago to meet back in 1905. And the goal, he thought at the time, was to get better acquainted with others in business, learn from them on how he might do things better in his law practice. And they called it Rotary, as it turns out, because they chose to rotate the meeting around between the businesses that were represented in the group. He was only 38 at the time. Now, how many of us in Rotary today can say that we have a lot of 38-year-olds in Rotary? Well, we were founded by a 38-year-old lawyer in Chicago. Now, beyond Chicago, the second club got organized by 1906 after, I think, the earthquake in San Francisco, and then Oakland, and the fourth club, Seattle, and it goes on from there. And there are many, many clubs of those original 100 that got formed in the first 20 years that are quite large. Seattle has 400 and some members. You don't have to be a large Rotary club to make a difference in your community. A club of 30, 40 members is often some of the best clubs at making things happen. Sometimes the large clubs fall into the trap of being, slow to engage, more likely lunch club. People go and they like the fellowship, enjoy the acquaintance and fellowship with each other, but don't often have the motivation to go beyond themselves to do much. So smaller, medium-sized clubs often are the lifeblood of service in making communities better. We first became international in 1912 with the admission of the club in Winnipeg, Manitoba, north of Minnesota. As it turns out, when you invite me as past district governor to speak at your club, you're going to get a little history. I fancy myself as a person quite interested in history. I joined the Rotary Global History Fellowship, which talks about the early Rotary clubs and things that have happened in Rotary. The object of Rotary is what helped us lead down the road toward peace and conflict resolution, which we celebrate every February. The object of Rotary, which I shared when I was governor with my talk at all clubs, has to do with acquaintance and fellowship. It has to do with ethics in business. It has to do with service to others. And the fourth object of Rotary was promoting understanding and goodwill for peace. And that really has to do with the early foundation of our organization and spreading internationally with leaders from all over the world wanting to make a difference in promoting peace. This came to a head during World War II when a group of Rotarians met in London at a conference trying to figure out, in these first 40 years of Rotary, this was back in 1942, the first 40 years of Rotary, there were 2 world wars, and the Rotary leaders were asking themselves, how can we change the dynamic of the world around us? How can we make things better? And at that conference in London back in 42, there was decisions made about where to go after we get out of this war. And they talked about education and cultural exchanges between nations and promoting peace as a method of being a Rotarian. 1945 came along, the war was ending, the European part of it, and then by August in the Japanese surrender, we had the beginnings of the formation of the United Nations. And at the conference that was held in 1945 in San Francisco, there were 11 Rotarians who were selected as consultants to the US delegate to the formation of the United Nations. I don't know how many Rotarians today realize how involved we were as Rotary in the formation of the United Nations. In fact, today, Rotary has a permanent seat at the United Nations. We are the only non-governmental organization with a permanent seat at the United Nations. We have in Rotary an annual UN Day where Rotarians from around the world will gather in New York or wherever Rotary, wherever the United Nations is meeting. Sometimes they meet elsewhere in the fall, but generally it's in New York at the headquarters. And they have a UN Day. It's probably around, I think, October 23rd, something like that. So that's part of our foundation for peace and conflict resolution is in the formation of the United Nations. Now, in order to promote peace and the conflict resolution or prevention around the world, we have to look at the root causes of conflict. Well, what are they? If you take a look at most educational institutions, they'll help you understand that poverty is a source of conflict, inequality of opportunities can be a source of conflict, the ethnic or religious tensions exist in so many places around the world. Access to education makes a difference in whether or not we can promote peace and conflict resolution. The distribution or availability of resources. How many times do we see places fight over water? Well, California and Arizona fight over who's got access to the Colorado River that's coming off of the mountains in Colorado. It's just an ongoing challenge of the availability of resources to everyone. Rotary has answers for all of this, and you should be proud to be part of an organization whose foundation has 6, soon 7 areas of focus that deal specifically with all of these sources of conflict in the world. Disease prevention and treatment is one of our areas of focus. Polio has, of course, been one of the major parts of that, but it also relates to, we can distribute vaccine for the COVID-19 virus as efficiently as we can distribute polio vaccine to parts of the world that have yet had the vaccine or access to it. Clean water and sanitation is one of the areas of our focus. And believe me, if you have clean water and sanitation, it helps limit conflict. Maternal and child health, building a healthy society, basic education and literacy. Your club has been involved in Josh the Otter and the Rota Kids and opportunities to help with basic education and literacy among children. Economic and community development is one of our little talked about areas of focus for the foundation and Rotarians, and yet it makes so much difference in making our communities better and having access to resources for so many. Peace and conflict resolution prevention. Soon, environmental care will be our 7th area of focus. Now, I can't think of a better organization to belong to be contributing to peace in the world. But the Rotary board, back when I was there in Evanston 20 years ago, 2001, began discussions about their history of peace in the world and how we might make a difference that was more sustainable, that would help beyond just focusing on our 6 areas of focus at that time. What is it we can do? How can we prepare more people to be on our side for peace and conflict resolution? We're already in nearly 200 countries as Rotarians. We ought to be able, we've got ambassadorial scholarships, which we now have a different name for. There's opportunities for high school students to have exchange in their time. They could spend a year over in another country, and some have come here, you know that fairly well, Rotary Youth Exchange. But the board began to tackle this issue of directly dealing with peace by deciding that we needed to train peace leaders. We needed Rotary training experience to be shared with others who weren't in Rotary. We wanted to make a difference. So they actually have the birth of the Rotary Peace Centers, 7 of them around the world. Originally, there was one in South America, which is no longer in existence. There's been some changes since the beginnings, but basically we formed partnerships with universities that were already engaged in some sort of conflict resolution training or degrees, and we merged it with our ideas for peace. Those universities include the University of Bradford in England, the Duke and University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill is part of the program, the International Christian University in Tokyo, University of Queensland in Australia, Uppsala University in Sweden. I think there was one in France originally, but that one is not in existence anymore. And then there were 2 universities, the second one just coming online this next year in Uganda, but the first one was in Thailand, in Bangkok, Chulalongkorn University, that's a mouthful, in Bangkok, Thailand. That the one in Thailand and the one in Uganda are only programs for the summer certification program, not for the graduate degree that's available in the other 5. The other 5 that I mentioned have a graduate program in peace studies that will generate a master's degree in peace and conflict resolution. The Rotary board is fully funding this program. They initially decided that they would raise the funds and dedicate Rotary resources to educating peace scholars to be effective leaders in the world of peace development. The program includes approximately 100 new candidates each year selected from a pool of applicants. We last year accepted the 100 candidates from 800 people who showed interest and filed applications. Applicants file usually through a Rotary Club, through a district, and then the district supports their candidacy by moving it forward to the foundation committee for review. But it usually starts at the club. A club can solicit people who they believe would be good candidates, non-Rotarians, who would be good candidates for peace and conflict resolution studies. Now, the whole intention is not to just choose someone who is on the course of a bachelor's and master's degree program, and here's another master's. Generally speaking, the better candidates are those who are a little more mature and have some experience in the workday world, in some organization or agency that they can draw upon to be a good student with experience. They must be committed to serving in the program in some way, shape, or form after their 2 years of a master's degree. There's no cost to the candidates. The program is fully funded. Rotary Foundation was successful. In 2017, they embarked on forming an endowment within the foundation to fully fund this, and they were their goal was 150 million. I believe they raised over 180 million in the course of the last 4 years. And what's 5% of 150 million? You know? 7.5 million a year. The average cost of a candidate's program is 75,000 for 2 years master's degree in peace studies. So you've got 100 times 75,000, that's 7.5 million. That's 5% of the 150. So as an accountant, I just told you it's solved. They were successful at raising enough in an endowment to fund 100 candidates a year. Since the program began, we've educated and graduated well over 1,000 program peace scholars. Where do they serve? Well, they serve in conflict zones in some cases. I met a young woman at an international convention who served in the conflict with Bosnia-Herzegovina as part of a border negotiator. She was supporting the negotiating team that was trying to keep the peace. It's just amazing to me the different opportunities that exist. The United Nations has a lot of organizations, everything from the World Health Organization to UNESCO, child education programs around the world, food programs, delivery of food, making those, what did we say, available resources to folks as a way to prevent conflict, making resources available to all. So it could be anything from conflict mediation to active participating in trying to stop active conflict to helping spread the resources and make sure that there's basic literacy and sanitation, or maternal and child health, all the areas of focus that Rotary is deeply engaged in. They mostly work for non-governmental agencies, but there are plenty of peace scholars who are in the United Nations agencies also promoting peace. Some have chosen to be teachers and professors, thus being available to educate another generation of peace scholars. Some are journalists who are out there reporting the truth of what's happening everywhere. So I just wanted you to know that Rotary has a deep history of involvement in making sure that there is peace and conflict prevention or resolution in the world. And we take a moment every February to remind ourselves that this is part of who we are. As a club, you can promote peace and conflict resolution in your own communities. You support children having a more peaceful life. You could create a peace garden in Englewood. You could have a park with a peace pole that would remind people that this should be part of our living experience, not necessarily, I've gone all over this country and visited all 50 states, and you can always find some sort of a statue in a community that is to a war or a hero from a battle. How about a peace pole? Or how about something that reminds all of us that there's more to life in our history than just war? That's all I have to share.
Deb, you're gonna have to unmute.
Trying to get back on my settings, so just bear with me just a second. That wasn't it. Hold on. We have questions.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions?
Is the is the master's degree virtual, online,
So how is the program administered is the question, I think. And probably in the past, they probably went to these universities, but that may have changed. Or can you explain to us how that works?
Well, the program has those 5 campuses where the students are residing. They live on campus while they participate in the programming. I don't know how they've been handling this past year with the virus's impact. Maybe as any other school, they're doing more virtual programming. The students who are enrolled in the program are followed carefully and closely by a department at the Rotary Foundation in Evanston. There are staff who are working with the universities and the students all the time. You must go to a program that is not in your home country. You have to engage with a program in a different location.
Okay. I think that's great.
yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
Ask if any of these guys working in Congress.
On the UNC, or he wants to know if anybody's working with Congress. Mr. Alford.
With Congress
Yeah.
for peace and conflict resolution, our work with Congress up to now has been limited to accessing funding for polio.
Medium, yeah. Okay. And do you foresee the group of peace and conflict resolution being involved in the future of, we're working on polio now, and I think that there's a lot of cross ways that we can help people. Do you foresee that happening?
Well, as far as health issues are concerned, I think our maternal child health, disease prevention, and treatment are pretty broadly based that could be involved in anything. I do know that back in 2002, when I traveled with some senior Rotary leaders to the World Health Organization in Geneva, Switzerland, the World Health Organization wanted Rotary to participate in other health issues. At that time, they were very interested to have Rotary help with HIV, which did not have a vaccine. It still doesn't, I believe. But we were focused on polio, and the Rotary Board is not thrilled with the idea of being a world solution to health issues. Like we're not thrilled to be the world solution for natural disasters. Rotarians send all kinds of money when there's a natural disaster, whether it be a earthquake, a hurricane, mudslides, whatever it is. Rotarians are very generous at helping solve those problems. But we don't want to become the International Red Cross or the World Health Organization distributing vaccines for absolutely everything.
True, very true. Anybody online have any questions?
Nothing from me.
Nobody? Okay. Well, we very much appreciate, I learned a lot about the peace and conflict resolution from you lads. And as you know, we typically do a donation in your name for Polio Plus. So I will send you a certificate via email and we will make that donation for you for participating today. Thank you very much. And you're welcome to stay or go, whatever your schedule. I know a lot of people have a lot of other speaking engagements at this time, so you're welcome to do as you
Probably
wish.
nap time.
Karen says your nap time. All right. Well, I hope everybody got something out of that. So we know that today is Groundhog's Day. It actually happens to be my daughter's birthday as well.
Yep.
So I had a few little trivia questions, see if anybody knew. So how many teeth do groundhogs have?
Well, it looks like 2 in that picture.
They actually have 22 teeth. And it's 18, and then 4 are the ones that they actually chew with, I believe is how it goes. What is the average lifespan of a groundhog?
That's all, up around.
8 years.
Mr. Hunter,
8 years.
anybody want to guess?
8 years.
Brad says 8 years.
That's pretty good. 6 to 8 years. 6 to 8 years was the correct answer. What is the average groundhog's weight?
15 pounds.
It's pretty close too. You have to do it pretty good. 12 to 15 pounds.
Brad, you know, you
I know my groundhogs.
All right, and so we all know they come out of their burrow, but do groundhogs live or burrow together?
They only live 6 to 8 years. I hope so. We need more groundhogs.
Never seen any more than one.
I'm gonna
That's
say
correct.
no.
They hibernate in burrows and each has their own burrow and it has 2 doorways. So that goes back to your other part.
We can escape from you.
That's right. All right, I just thought I'd throw that in for a little bit of fun.
Did he see a shadow or not?
I think he did. I
He
don't, I
did not
honestly,
see his shadow.
All they're saying is it's gonna be 6 more weeks.
yeah,
I guess.
What did Tracy say?
I think
He
she was
didn't
answering.
see
He
his
did not.
shadow.
Okay. Okay, so any happy, sad dollars, concerns, cares? Anybody want to share anything? No? Jennifer does, but she's chewing. Anybody online?
I've got one.
Okay,
It's $3.
I would like to pay
Go
a
ahead,
$5
Or-
happy
well-
fine. $5 happy fine because I'm able to visit with my favorite past district governor, who was one of the district governors during one of my presidential reigns, but Glad was my favorite of all of them.
Oh,
And that's sweet. Thank you all. Okay, Jennifer, go ahead.
Happy Dollar, my son has decided to join the Marines, which makes him fourth generation.
Wow.
Congratulations. So going back to 4 generations, he's the first Marine.
First Marine, well, his namesake is my father, he was
Okay,
but my husband, my father-in-law, grandfather were all
Army, right. Do you think that had anything to do with this decision? This namesake?
Well, kind of, I don't know.
Maybe.
I had to pick one over the other, yes.
Alfred,
Got a happy dollar, Sally Waldo.
do you want to explain? You want to elaborate?
I got a happy dollar for Sally Waldo. She's the brain behind the district governor that I enjoyed in my year as president. Lad, you're awesome, and it was a great year.
I will put one in as well for my daughter's birthday today. She is 35. Yeah, talk about feeling old. I was like, she said, no, this one really sunk in, Mom. And I said, yeah, I did.
Because every year she gets older, so do you.
That's right. That's right. I try to ignore it, but it still happens. Anybody else? All right. So we're down to happy dollars, or I'm sorry, the 50/50. I'm going to try to get back to doing the, now that we get things settled where we're at, what we're doing with this meetings format, I'll get back to doing the poker hand. Tony, did you buy any tickets? You want to draw it?
Only what? And $3. Whopping 3. Read it too.
Kidding. All right, 192603.
Woohoo!
Gotta wait till I get to that last digit.
I know.
Karen gets that.
Don't spend it all one place. Yeah, really.
All right. Anybody else have anything that they want to share for today?
Go Bucks.
Yeah, coming up on Super Bowl.
Sorry, we can't have a Super Bowl party.
Yeah, they are doing quite a bit of this. You can reserve tickets to go to the Super Bowl experience thing up in Tampa if you can't go to the game, and that's, is it sold out already?
$22,000.
Okay,
You can't. Hey.
well, to go to the
have your
game,
Cardboard cut out, put it in the.
yeah,
Yeah, really, what does that cost?
I don't know.
yeah,
Just
crazy.
a picture cardboard.
But I know it'd be cool if we could have our normal.
The cost is
Yes.
$100.
Yes.
The cost is $100.
Well, I actually will be traveling to Houston, Texas.
Wow.
So
What's with that?
we had planned travel. We always go away in January. We tried to plan 3 different times, and because of COVID or the numbers going up in certain areas and whatnot, we canceled, planned, canceled, planned, canceled. So we pushed this one back just a little bit. We were concerned, as kind of everybody was after the holidays with Christmas and New Year's, that if there was a big breakout, you know, it was going to happen during the time that we were traveling. So we thought we'd push it back a little bit. So we just decided, and everybody's coming here, so we're going to get out.
How'd you take Houston? Is that just a place you can want to go?
No, not actually. It was just Allegiant had a $39 fare, and we jumped on it.
I know. Well, scope it out for us for next year's convention.
I
We
will.
hope we
I
can go
will.
to.
So it's just a weekend getaway, but it'll be fun. So I also wanted to remind everybody that didn't get these, back when Mr. Governor Darrell came to speak to us, he gave us these little handy things for the back of your phone. It's the little rotary thing. I know some of you have them, and there's some cards on here. So it's the random acts of kindness. It kind of goes along with my challenge. So if anybody wants any, I do have extras. So just come up and get one if you are in need of one or would like one. So I think that really wraps it up for today. Again, we've been finishing up a little bit earlier than typical, but if anybody has anything they want to share, if they just want to hang out and chat, you're welcome to. But I will call the meeting to end and thank everybody for joining us. Karen, would you lead us out with the four-way test?
Happy. Okay, the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth?
The truth.
Second, fair to
Fair
all
to all
concerned.
concerned.
Third,
Will it build goodwill and better
goodwill and
friendship?
better friendship.
Be beneficial to all
And
concerned.
then we always add a fifth now.
Is it fun?
Yes, that can't.
Unless you put it on there.
I know.
All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Thanks for the meeting.
I had given that anyway.
Oh, okay.
Actually, the grilled cheese is better.
That's what I got.